Hello, Homeworthy. I'm Ann. Welcome to my Texas home. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Like and subscribe for more.
Hello, my name is Ann Wolf, and you are in my living room in my home in Houston, Texas. When we were building the house, I remember initially we weren't clear about what style. We kept telling our architects we wanted stucco, and they kept giving us kind of Mediterranean designed houses. And then we established that we really actually love the architecture of the Northeast. I was born and raised in New York, and we really wanted a classical house, and so it turns out that we got a very traditional classical house on the inside and stucco on the outside. Welcome to my foyer. This is my entry hall. One of the nicest features I think about my entry hall are these hand stenciled walls. You can see they're really beautifully, subtly detailed with a motif that we took from the rug in the living room. And there's some really fantastic decorative painters here in Houston, and they were able to really make the room feel alive with these, I don't know, maybe apricot trees, fanciful fantasy trees, and also some Chinese porcelain over the entry hall. I always love to have a table full of flowers or a plant. This is a beautiful planter that my friend Alex Papakristides gave me as a gift, and it's from his Everyday Elegance collection. Over here is a Dutch chest, and on the chest I have a small collection of Delft. I collect a lot of different types of pottery and porcelain, and Delft is one of my favorites. This is actually a gift from some of my best friends for a really big birthday that I just had, and these are porcelain flowers, and they're made by the artist Vladimir in New York. I think that there's no detail that's not worth thinking about. One of my favorite lampshades is this lampshade that was made out of an old Indian batik. And I think I actually made it for a client and she didn't want it. So some of the best things I have, I think were rejected by clients. On this side of the room, we have a pair of custom-made consoles. Basically, banquettes, sorry. A place to put your purse, or nobody really ever sits here, but it makes the space feel cozy to have furniture on every wall. The building process was really actually a lot of fun. My husband and I both love the process of building and designing houses. This is the second house that we did together. And we love our architects, Bill Curtis and Russell Wyndham. So we just really enjoyed it. We loved going to meetings, we loved studying the plans. My husband was really engaged with moving doors and eliminating doors and just placement of things. I didn't know as much back then as I know now. So it was a learning process for both of us. But we loved our architect, we loved our builder, and so we really had a great experience. I know sometimes when I observe in my business, when couples get together and they do houses, it can be kind of stressful if they have different approaches or different ideas about building. But for us, it was just really fun. Now we're going to go to the living room. When I start designing a room, I always like to think about the rug first. But in this case, I had the privilege of designing around a painting. The painting over my mantle has really beautiful colors in it, and I thought that would be a great departure point for the palette of the room. So I kind of started from there. I was really inspired by the reds and the yellows and the blues of the painting. And so I kind of managed to incorporate all those colors into the room, into the fabrics and the walls. The walls haven't always been this color. They started up peach, and they were peach for many years. And then I got a new painting, and when the painting arrived, it just felt really dead against the peach walls. So I painted the walls this color, and I would say they're closest to, really raspberry. We actually took a bowl of raspberries and tried to match that in a paint color. It's a decorative glaze, so it's not a color that I could share with you, but it is, it's raspberry. So I was able to create 2 seating areas in this living room, and one is around the fireplace. We don't really need to use our fireplace much here in Houston because it's not cold for very long, but it's always nice to use the fireplace as a focal point in a room, and in this case it worked out. My husband comes from a family of collectors. His parents were actually quite well-known collectors of American 18th century furniture, and my mother-in-law's living room really looked like a room at the Met. It had a uniformity and really an authenticity of being, you could have been in the 18th century in that room. And we inherited some lovely pieces and then added. So we started off with a lot of brown wood. And I really like to mix it up a bit. So in order sort of to have my living room not look like my mother-in-law's, I mixed in Swedish and Italian pieces. I like painted furniture a lot mixed with brown wood. So there's this room is more of a mix, I think. Pairs are always good. You don't want to have so many pairs that it looks like a pair party, but yeah, I tend to like symmetry, so I do have a lot of pairs. It's nice to be able to seat 6 or 8 people in a conversation area. So that's what you kind of always have to think about. How many people can sit in this space, and then if there are more, how many chairs can we pull into the space? In this case, we can squeeze quite a few people around in this conversation area. The ceiling is a trompe-l'oeil ceiling, and it's meant to look three-dimensional. Actually, it was my son's idea to paint the ceiling. We had already done the room and kind of looked up and said, "Mom, that ceiling's really white." And so we had our very, very talented decorative painters come in and paint it, and the crack in the ceiling reminds me every day that perfection is elusive, and life happens. I bought these tables several years ago. They came from the Ihekwoaba estate, and I don't know if he ever had them in his home. He had a lot of furniture that he collected over the years, but I really fell in love with them, and I just had to have them, and kind of got into a bit of a bidding war with somebody over them, but they're really one of my favorite things that I own. And what's so wonderful about them is they're both slightly different. There are 2, and they open up, and they have this magnificent color paint on the inside as well. So you can see how this one opens up, and it has this lovely melon-colored interior. Yeah, these are spectacular. A room always kind of tells you what you can do with it furniture-wise, and it just seemed to make a lot of sense to have a sofa against this wall. I do like to here's something that's not a pair, is these upholstered chairs. They're quite different from one another. I actually just reupholstered my sofa after 20 years. I tend to tweak things a little bit. I think any designer will tell you that their house is a bit of a laboratory, and you have the freedom to try new things and try different things in your own house. So all this furniture has been here for a long time, but I recently changed the color of the walls, like I said, to work better with this painting. The artist is a woman named Pearl Fine. She was an abstract expressionist who painted out in Long Island in the 50s and 60s. So I repainted the walls so that the Pearl Fine painting would pop and look more beautiful against them. And then I reupholstered my sofa. But otherwise, everything is kind of as it was, as it's been for 20 years. I think if you buy things that are classic and that you love, and the best things that you can afford to buy, you'll have them for a really long time. This chest on chest actually was in my in-laws' collection, and it's called the Roebling Highboy, and the Roeblings actually built the Brooklyn Bridge, and I think the Brooklyn Bridge just had a big anniversary. So the Roebling family was in the news. You have to be really patient when you're doing a project like this, and even when you move in, as you'll see when I'm walking you through my house, there are so many different layers, and those can't happen right away. They happen over time, and you just have to be patient and dedicate yourself to really understand that you're never finished decorating. I don't know who said you're finished decorating when you die. I mean, I think that's true. My mother-in-law died recently, and she was 94, and she still wanted to reupholster her sofas. So I don't think that urge ever goes away. Welcome to the dining room. This dining room started off with the idea. There's a historic house in Houston called Bayou Bend, and I always thought they had the most beautiful dining room because of their mural that was painted on the walls. And so I actually copied the mural at Bayou Bend. I had my local decorative painters. They painted it on canvas, and first the canvas was silver leafed, so you can see lots of little squares of silver leaf, and then they painted on and then they glazed the silver leaf, and then they painted on top of that this scene of dogwoods and peonies. We can't grow dogwoods here. We tried, but it's not the right zone. But I just think that they create such a beautiful atmosphere in the room. When they came and installed it, it was a very exciting day, and then they came back and added critters. So we have hummingbirds and butterflies and little birds and bees, and it creates a really beautiful, charming, warm palette at night as well as during the day. I think it took them over a year to do it, actually. I remember going over to their studio, and they had these big canvas panels just hanging up on the wall. And I think the silver leafing took a long time, because you can see each one is a little square of silver leaf. And so they had to actually apply each piece of silver leaf to the wall, to the canvas. And then I suppose the painting was not as laborious as the prep work on it. But I'll have to ask my decorative painter. I don't know if he'll remember. It was a while ago, but yeah. So I think the beauty in this is the way that it glows. The way the leaf is sort of antiqued, and it glows at night. And then the painting of the flowers and the trees is actually matte on top. It's not shiny. It's a matte paint, which is a nice contrast. The chandelier is Swedish, and the table is American, triple pedestal. I love triple pedestal tables. I love the flexibility that they give you when you can make them larger or smaller. The flowers are from Trader Joe's. Probably the best bargain out there are Trader Joe's flowers. And then, of course, this collection of blue and white Delft and some Chinese porcelain mixed in. I have a collection of Delft. pottery, and I mix it with Blanc de Chine. I don't really know that much about Blanc de Chine, but I just thought some of it was really, really beautiful and looks so nice against the blue and white pottery. These consoles are Swedish, and I replaced the tops. They had originally wood tops, and I wanted to jazz them up a little bit, so I put a stone on top. This is actually a jade stone that I found in Dallas. And it's shaped exactly as the top was shaped in its original iteration. What most people say is that it's warm and welcoming and cozy. I have some big rooms and some beautiful, important things in it, but the important thing to me is that it feel welcoming and warm and bright. I think the rooms are scaled properly, and with rooms that are beautifully designed architecturally, it's much easier to decorate that and to accomplish that, to get to that feeling. I do work on a lot of houses in Houston that have extremely high ceilings, or they're really, really big, and there's a lot of extra space, and it becomes more challenging to make it feel cozy. But I feel like warmth and to create a warm and welcoming atmosphere is the most important thing. So welcome to my library. This library is, I designed kind of around all of my husband's collections. When I met my husband, he had a real passion for Tiffany lighting. He had this Tiffany chandelier in his apartment in New York in his bachelor pad when he was in his 20s. And then he had a whole collection of American paintings from the early part of the 20th century. Niall Spencer, Ralston Crawford, Charles Sheeler, and I didn't really get them initially, and then I've really grown to love them over the years. So my idea for this room was to create a more masculine room. Yeah, so every library needs books, and we have collected art books, and so most of these books are art books, and I'm obsessively organized, so they're all organized by category. And we always had the idea that we would put Matthew's Tiffany balance lamps up around the top of the room. And so we have 5 of these little Tiffany balance lamps that create a little bit of a warm glow at night and lots of nice color. And then we realized we had these big alcoves at the top to fill up, and so my husband started collecting this glass. It was made by Tiffany and Stu Ben in the early part of the 20th century, and it's called Orine glass. And basically they come in blues and this lovely kind of yellowy ochre color. And so he had a lot of fun on eBay and at antique fairs putting together this collection of glass. I think it really goes well with the palette of the room too, and it was kind of a happy accident. It just kind of unfolded that way, I would say. And then over here, it's an architect's desk. I bought it years ago in Paris at the flea market, and it houses a lot more of this special glass that my husband adores. We had to do a little intervention on him and tell him he couldn't buy any more because he was really getting carried away with it. But it's nice. You can I use the vases sometimes when I have a party. I'll fill them up with flowers, or when Homeworthy's coming by, I will go out and get some flowers for my vases. And so this room is sort of a nice intimate room to be when we have 1 or 2 couples over for a cocktail. Kind of had this vision that I would sit in here at night with my husband and have a cocktail, but that didn't really happen. Welcome to my sunroom. One of the nicest features of this room is the floor, which has also been decoratively painted to look like tiles. I think they did a really convincing job of making it look like old tiles with scuff marks and lots of wear and fading, and It was an accident because we really wanted this tile and we had a little piece of it and we thought we had bought it from Italy, but it had been sold to someone else. So all we had was a little square that we gave to our decorative painters and they painted it on. This room is sort of like, it's an afternoon sunroom and it's filled with more collections of things that I love. In this case, it's plants and Majolica and Palissy and Chinese porcelain. It's a great space to sit. Sometimes I sit here and read the paper, or we visit in here. When my sons were living at home, we always came in here on the weekends and did a little study session in here. So it's kind of a French-inspired room, I would say. The settee was one of the first things that I bought for the house, and it was when First Dibs was just the flea market in Paris. This came from First Dibs. That's how long I've been at this. So this was a First Dibs purchase, maybe one of my first Dibs purchases. The wallpaper is Colfax and Fowler, which is quintessentially English. And yeah, some of the shapes of the furniture are French. This is Napoleon III. These are French, where they made for seltzer dispensers. And so it does definitely have a gardeny feel. I bought the collection of hyacinth jars all kind of in one fell swoop. It doesn't happen very often that way, but I saw the collection when I was shopping in London. And again, kind of influenced by our famous historic home here, Bayou Bend. They have a beautiful collection of colored glass on shelves in front of a window, and I really wanted to have that, so we put the glass shelves in front of this window, and that's a really nice way to appreciate colored glass. So these are the hyacinth jars. They're for forcing at home. I've done it a couple times, not as often as I should, but I just love the glass. I just love to look at them empty with the light shining through them. This is actually a bronze relief. It's by Augustus St. Gaudens, who designed, the penny nickel, very famous American sculptor. And so this is sisters. This is the profiles of some sisters by Augustus St. Gaudens. I grew up in Manhattan, and when I met and married my husband, I had never been to Texas. I worked in New York in retail. I worked at Macy's. I did their training program. I became an assistant buyer. I worked in Macy's corporate. And then my last job in New York was working for Ralph Lauren in his design studio on a line of clothing. And when I got married and we moved to Texas, I quit my job and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with myself. I knew I wanted to have children, but I didn't know how I would be able to work as well here. And the way life is, things just kind of unfold and you stumble from one thing to the next. But I started off a little company right after my first child was born, and it was called the Little Wolf Furniture Company. I made little upholstered chairs out of vintage fabrics that my mother and I would go and shop for at peer shows, and I had a really great collection of vintage children's fabrics. So I started this company and I took a loan from my husband. He loaned me $4,000. I never paid him back, but he loves to remind me. And it was pretty, it was pretty good. It was pre-internet, so it was hard even just to figure out where the stores were that would sell the furniture. I remember getting yellow pages and looking up children's stores in different places. But I ended up doing a pretty good business privately. People would call, and through a store on Madison Avenue called Portico Kids. And so then after doing that for 6 years, we We bought a house, I decorated it. Friends would come by and they liked it and they said, oh, could you make me a sofa? Could you do this? And sort of, it was just a kind of a natural segue to go from having a little furniture company to becoming an interior designer. I am self-taught. I never worked for anyone. I wish I had. I wish I had the foresight to know that this was something that I really wanted to do, but I didn't. So I just kind of figured it out as I went along. So there's a room at the Biltmore that inspired this Butler's Pantry. So it's kind of a pantry, but it's also a bar. It's where we entertain and have cocktails sometimes at night. When we have friends over, everybody loves a small space, so people tend to gather in here and gather around this island, which also houses an ice maker and a wine refrigerator. I have a lot of dishes. I recently inherited a lot of dishes from my mother-in-law who passed away last summer. So we've been doing some rearranging in here. Let me show you some of my collections first. I absolutely adore, like you've seen, pottery and porcelain, and I started collecting this. It's called salt glaze stoneware. Actually, I'll show you. The first piece I ever bought was this one. I never found anything as large as this one, but I bought this in Texas from a dealer my husband and I used to love to go visit. So this is called salt glaze stoneware. It's mostly English. I think that I might have a couple of American pieces, but I think it's mostly English. And you can buy the books on it, and some things that are marked you can date and see when and where they were made. But I loved the kind of bisky, subtle, soft, hazy colors of it. And I actually kind of designed this room and the palette of this room around this collection of stoneware. These are some really beautiful stoneware soups. This cabbage I bought in Maine at one of the Americana fairs from a dealer, and it's quite early, and the top comes off. Yeah, I just love it. And then I'll show you how I keep my dishes here. A lot of them are on display, and then these drawers are great for different sets of dishes. I have accumulated a lot over the years from, used to be this really great dealer here, it was called E-Dish, and he had thousands of different patterns and dishes in an antiques mall that was really quite close to my house. So I used to go there and buy dishes too. Some of these are recently inherited, my favorite Royal Copenhagen pattern. I have a lot of blue and white, and then a mixture of other things. I haven't used these yet. These were my mother-in-law's. I think they're heron. They're all beautifully, individually different, featuring different flowers. These are Aptware, and these are French pottery, and they're made in the town of Apt, and they're made from clay that comes from their earth there. And my husband and I went on a bike trip years ago, and I engineered it so that we would go through this town, and went to this little shop and bought all these lovely dishes. I love the way the green looks in my dining room. Welcome to my family room. This room is another little cozy spot where we hang out a lot. It's right next to the kitchen. I recently redid the walls in a nami-sami fabric. It's fabric that is applied like wallpaper. It's glued to the walls. and the ceiling is a Fromenthal wallpaper. On the sofa are pillows from places I've been. I think I bought these in Istanbul maybe 20 years ago on a trip to Istanbul. And this is a needlepoint pillow that I made. I designed it based on a fragment of an old Indian batik tablecloth that I bought. I love the way all the colors look all mixed up together. This was actually Vaughn's first fabric, Vaughan Lighting. Some of you, I'm sure, are familiar with Vaughan. It was their first fabric that they made, and I think I was one of their first customers. And it still continues to please me. This was like a kind of I think it was a mid-COVID moment where we thought, we were just living here and looking, lying on the sofa, staring at the ceiling, thinking, this could be like, maybe we could up this a notch. And I have a lot of vendors come by and show me beautiful things all the time. And I remember one of my favorite road reps, this guy named Brian from Ellen Knight, whipped out the new Fromenthal wall covering, and I walked right over to the ceiling and I stuck it up and I said, we gotta do this right here. This is gonna work so beautifully with everything in the room. So I'm lucky I have a lot of people coming and showing me beautiful things to inspire me. The coffee table is wicker, and it's something I've had forever. I've had it for probably 25 years, and it opens up and it's a storage basket coffee table, and it's nothing special. It just works. This is our breakfast room, and I think one of the nicest features of this room is these circular windows, these curved windows at the front that look out into the garden. And it's a really lovely feature of the house is these curved windows. Off of our breakfast room is one of the access points to the garden, so we have the ability to sit outside and have meals when it's not too scorching hot like it is today. We also have like a little seating area over here, which is shaded, mercifully shaded, which is a lovely place just to hang out. This is our pool. Sometimes we entertain under this pergola here. We had a table that was made by local craftsmen. It's like, I can't remember if it's 15 feet long. It's a really big table. We can gather a lot of people around it. We looked at a lot of gardens. Curtis and Wyndham did the gardens as well, and we looked at a lot of gardens, and I'm trying to remember the name. No, but all American like gardens, but I can't really remember the inspiration. We really wanted something low maintenance, which is completely laughable now, but we don't have a lot of seasonal color, so I guess that makes it a little bit less high maintenance, but a garden requires constant devotion. We used to have beautiful orange trees in these containers that my husband lovingly tended, and then we had a freeze two winters ago, and we lost all of the citrus, and we haven't been able to get it back. So now we just content ourselves with gardenias. So welcome to my office. This is where I spend the majority of my time in my house, in my office. We keep a full fabric library here. Even though we do have a really great design center in Houston, it helps to have the fabrics on hand all the time, as well as a reference library for myself and for my clients. And this is where I work. Not a bad view. I get to look outside. I feel very, very lucky to be able to work here. This is where we have meetings, and when we're not going to our clients' houses, we have meetings here in this office. We do presentations on these boards. This is where I work and live. I am about to announce that I have formed a partnership with my longtime employee, Ashley Holden, and we're going to do a name change. It's time for her to get some of the credit as well. We're going to be Wolf Holden Design Studio, and that's coming soon. We're working on a new website, and we're very excited to launch that, hopefully in the near future. This is our upstairs family room, and this is where we hang out and watch TV at night. And these are all Warhol watercolors from the 1950s. My husband collects them as well. And this is actually the second color that I've had up on the walls. And initially I had a kind of a golden yellow on the walls, and it just didn't really pop. So we repainted it this beautiful slate blue, and it really highlights all of the paintings that are up against it. One of my more needlepoint rug, needlepoint pillows, lots of family pictures, and just another cozy place to hang. This is my bedroom. The walls are painted decoratively 3 shades of blue, and I guess it's fair to say blue is my favorite color. I've always loved this style of curtain where it kind of swoops back. My husband's been after me to change the curtains. It's really odd. You would never think that a husband would want to redecorate more than a wife. Usually it's the other way around, but yeah, he wants to change, and I'll be really sad. I don't know if I'm going to give in to him because I still really love my bedroom, even though it's 20 years old. The bed is something that I copied from an old French bed. My nightstand is Swedish Rococo. I think it's 18th century Swedish Rococo. I bought it from a really good dealer in New York named Jill Dienst. The carpet is stark. My mother made me these needlepoint rugs many years ago. She was an avid needlepointer as well, so I have always lived with them, and I love having them be the first thing I see when I wake up in the morning. We have a couple of Warhol drawings hanging over the bed, kind of a his and a her facing each other. Of course, more Delft. In this case, polychrome Delft, gathered on top of this American highboy, and pretty much anywhere else that I have a spot to put it. You know, I always really want to feel like I'm in an English country home. And honestly, I was just in an English country home, and I came home and I thought my bedroom was better than anything that I saw there. But it's my fantasy. It's my fantasy of an English country home. Just lots of layer and lots of pattern and lots of memories. I think home is a place where you can fully be comfortable and be yourself. And you can surround yourself with memories and create your own, you're in control of your own environment as much as that's possible in this world, to be in control of your own environment. But home is a place for love and family and memories and work. For me, it's also a place for work.
Thanks for watching. For more Homeworthy content, be sure to like and subscribe.